Willkommen, bienvenue. Welcome to another live stream of the Karen Bashford Show. Karen is an empowerment mentor, has been through a number of struggles and hard places, and has learnt from that, and also developed a whole series of beliefs and ideas and concepts that enables her to help people, often mostly women of a certain age, to find their power and to step into it. Now, today's topic I knew nothing about until she said, I said to Karen, what are we going to talk about today? So she said, I want to talk about the Akashic, what did you write? I'm trying to write it.
Akashic Records.
The Akashic Records. And I thought, oh, I never heard of that. And I did some research. And I'm just going to read you the summation. So an energetic archive holding the vibrational imprint of every soul's journey. So apparently it's rooted in spiritual traditions that go back quite a long way. But it was only really started being talked about in the late 1800s, and are supposed to be accessible through meditation, intuitive practices. And what is different about what Karen does or is that she can help you rewrite them. So we're not tied, we're not locked down. I think we start off in a certain configuration, but you can. I mean, I know a lot of people say, this is where it is, almost in a karmaistic kind of manner. It will happen whether you like it or not. Whereas what you're saying, Karen, is you can modify. Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. So now I'm the know nothing here, so I want you to set me straight. Is that have I got at least a vague definition there of what the Akashic?
You've done well. Yeah, you've done well.
Okay.
And for me, I would describe it as a big library, basically, in the cosmos. And within that library, each of us has a book of our lives, not just the present one, but past ones, present and future. And we have access to that through our own intuition, through our own ability to connect to higher source energy. We can access that information. So there's something, I'll rephrase that. If there is something going on in your life at the moment you're not happy about, you can actually imagine yourself going up, accessing your book at the page that's relevant now, and rewriting what's going on.
That's the interesting bit to me. Yeah. So it's a challenge for me to believe or to understand that everything we do or have done is inscribed, or not necessarily written, but it's held within this let's call it a book because it's easier to refer to. What makes it really interesting is the concept that it's not all hardwired. I'm assuming we can't change what's happened in the past within that book. It's a record.
You can, to an extent, because you can, whilst you can't actually change the actual physical events, you can change the energy connected to those physical events.
So it's almost like adding perspective to it, which you probably didn't have at the time when the event took place. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's great. It's almost like, if I'm going to carry the analogy on, it's almost like adding side notes to it later on, annotations to give you better reflection on it. Okay. Great. Future. That's the bit that intrigues.
Well, we live in the moment. We can never actually live in the future.
No, right.
So why can't we make adjustments through our own actions to change the future? And all you're doing is, instead of having it set in stone that this is our future, this is where our destination is going to be, if we've learned from the past, if we utilize what we've learned from the past in the present, why can't we change our future? It hasn't got to be set in stone.
Well, it hasn't happened yet, has it? So theoretically, we could nudge it one way or the other, and that would change. So would you say, instead of, you see, I always have a problem with the concept of the future being already written, because that almost feels like, well, you can't change it. So instead of it already being written, we have almost an arc that we would follow if nothing else nudged us one way or the other. Is that kind of what we're saying here?
It doesn't write every single event that's going to happen in your life, because you have a choice. Your choices will influence what happens. Right. However, before you're born, you actually make a decision. This is what I want to experience. And the trouble is, having decided this is what we want to experience, we forget that once we've experienced it, we can acknowledge we have and make a different choice. But we believe that we cannot change what we want to experience. But we can.
But okay, so okay, hang on.
Put your head around it.
It's okay. I don't mind. I like these sessions for that very reason, as you know. I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think Karen delights in twisting my melon, so it's all right. I'll get there. I'll get there. So there's a decision made before we actually have our life. That's what I want to experience. But it won't always work out the way that we thought, right?
No, because we have choice. We have our own individual choice. But during our decision to become human with the parents we choose, and we do choose our parents because we want to experience certain things. In making that decision and then starting to live that life, we have a predestined outcome. However, one of the things that I know with working with clients is, when you recognize that you have taken everything you need to learn, like for me, I've learned how my parents have manipulated me, how my family have caused me pain. I now know that I've learned my lesson, because I don't need to keep repeating that. Having discovered that I was manipulated, I was hurt by their behavior and such, I am now making a different decision. So I've automatically changed my future. But originally the path was, this is what I wanted to experience, and therefore I keep repeating it. However, working with clients,
I'm gonna, if I can, because without explaining what the conversation we had before we came on here, events have happened recently which I obviously hadn't planned, and they will necessarily change my future, but I can choose which way I choose to react to it. Yes,
of course you can.
So how it changes the future
depends on you.
Right. So it's not like it's all completely nailed down. By the way, we've had a comment from Fran Deutsch, who says, I think it's in correct connection with Canva. A pleasure.
Thank you, Fran.
An excellent person to talk to. Both of you. Great. Good. So I just want to acknowledge that, Fran. So thank you very much for your comment. So, because too much, whenever I read about spiritualism or any of that, it seems to give the impression that it's all set in stone, and whether you like it or not, your life path is already set. You chose where you were going to go, you're going to do that, and at the end of it, you'll pick another thing that you're going to, and start the whole process again. But you're saying
I'm a prime example. If you look at when you first knew me,
I remember very well.
Yeah.
You're completely different animal. Yeah, you're completely different animal.
Because I've made different choices. I've learned my lessons. So I've learned from the experiences that I've had with my family that have now allowed me to make different choices. in making those different choices, I've actually acknowledged that my past is no longer relevant. Therefore, I'm making different choices for how I'm living now and how I want to live in the future. And obviously, every decision I make now is influencing my future going forward. Yes, my past still will come into my future, simply because you can't design your whole past that easily. It doesn't work like that.
No,
But
you can't.
I
It's
know,
too complex to lay it all out exactly. But you can change the direction slightly, can't you?
yes,
You can move
yes,
the needle slightly.
yeah. You can. I've changed my life totally to what it was. I've got total freedom over what I can do now, whereas before I didn't, because my family would always have a say in it because of what I was having to do as part of that family. Now, I could have walked away from it initially, and I didn't say no to it at times. It was like, I would love to do so. But I also acknowledged that as a daughter, I had responsibilities.
Right.
But now I don't have those responsibilities. I don't have to listen to my family. So now I no longer have that connection to my past. And releasing myself from my past, I am stepping into a totally different place.
So you've modified the arc of your life.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a hard one.
Okay.
But some might say that was part of what the arc was in the first place, that this was going to happen, whether you liked it or not.
No, because until you actually start to realize that you don't have to follow the old ways. If you consider how many people keep doing the same thing day in and day out.
Well, yes.
That's what's set out, because that's what you're doing.
Right.
And that's what you've agreed initially when you came to being a human. This is what my soul wants to experience. Therefore, I'm going to keep doing it. But actually, you don't have to. Once you've gone through that experience, why do you have to keep repeating it?
But
It's
some
like
people
we go
do,
to school, precisely. But we can
don't
go
they?
to school to learn something and then utilize what we've learned to make different decisions. And that's all you're doing with your past, is taking that experience, learning from it, and making something different for the next stage of your life. And that's all you're doing. And that's all the Akashic Records are, is a map, I suppose, of where you start from and where you're to end up if you follow the original path.
If
However,
you follow the original path, right? Yeah.
There's nothing to stop you choosing to open a new door and
This is a
stepping
complete.
through that door.
But this is a revelation, because until now, my impression was that all these systems relied on the fact that it was all laid out, and didn't matter what you did, that's where you're going to end up. And what you're saying now is you don't have to be hidebound by that. You can make amendments.
Yeah, that's why with the women I've worked with, so many of them have created such a different lives for themselves, because they've actually recognized that they have continued the same path without realizing there's a different option. But when you start to realize you can make a different choice, that you can acknowledge that this is what I've learned, this is what I needed to experience, but now I've experienced, I don't need to continue experience it. I can make different decisions. I can choose different pathways. And you can open doors, go down one pathway, decide actually I want to do a different thing, and then open another door. There's nothing to stop you doing that. And you can actually put that into your present and allow the future to unfold with that in place. But that doesn't mean to say it's set in stone. You can change it. A bit like opening a new door.
Well,
you
I get that.
Doors.
Logically, that makes perfect sense. It's just that it goes against everything I've ever heard before in this context. I mean, I never heard it called the Akashic Records before, but the concept that everything was laid out in advance, that there was a path you were going to follow and that you were stuck on that path, that's been with me for the longest time. And the fact that what you're saying now is, well, your past is done, we can add notes to it, but you know it's done. But the future, that's for you to define. Yeah, absolutely, it's completely, you know, it's not hard to find. That's the point.
No. Once you decide you finish with the past, you can rewrite your future totally.
Okay, well, look, so that is definitely absolutely food for thought. All right, well, look, I tell you, while I'm here, as per usual, and I'm sorry if anybody finds this boring, but I think it's very important. If you want to hear more of this kind of wisdom, and if you want to get perhaps find your path, become reassured that you are going the right way, or maybe that you want that jolt that makes you think that, hang on a moment, I've been repeating the same old trope again and again and again, and I'm still no further forward. Maybe I do need to stop and veer to the left slightly, or whichever direction. There is a podcast. There's a podcast for that. There's a podcast. I have the pleasure of editing it, hence why I know it exists. It's the Empowered Women Life Leaders podcast. And by the way, men out there, you'll find a great deal of usefulness listening to it anyway. It's not really just aimed at women. It just happens to be women seem to react best to Karen's work. But anyway, it just is what it is. I would suggest you go and take a listen to it. It's bloody good. Also available on Apple, on Amazon Music, on Deezer, everywhere that you might get your podcast. Just look for the Empowered Women Life Leaders podcast with Karen Bashford. Now, that's the first thing. And the second thing I want to say is, you might be thinking, I need the boost that Gareth is talking about to help me start my wellness journey, as it were, because, you know, mental wellness is as important as body wellness. And Karen has a very helpful website, karenbashford.com. Have a discussion, and hopefully she'll be the person that you will work with. She's certainly been most helpful to me and continues to be helpful to me. But let's put that to one side. She's very focused on trying to find out what it is that's blocking and helping you find a way around it, or through it, or over it, so that you can be the mistress or master of your own life and not be stuck in repeated tropes that get you nowhere. Karen, as ever, an absolute bloody pleasure talking to you today. As usual, ladies and gentlemen, she's twisted my noodle a bit, but I've learned something new from it, which is great. Please, go back and watch previous ones. There's plenty of them. Also, she's got a YouTube channel, which is mostly populated with really good, I won't say mostly because I think there's a couple missing, but they are pretty good video renditions of the same as the audio. Now, bear in mind, they won't necessarily realize it was all going to be in video as well. So they weren't always looking at the camera, but it's still pretty good. And she has a mixture of her own thoughts and feelings on topics, as well as interactions and interviews with people who are really interesting. So I would encourage you to do exactly that. But until next week, please keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and do look after that mental health. Bye-bye now.